That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is
It's an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
AMC's sudden decision to yank the live-action Snow White remake from all its theaters sent shockwaves through Hollywood. What was supposed to be Disney's big hit, backed by the legacy of the original classic and some major star power, ended up crashing and burning in spectacular fashion. In a stunning move, AMC declared there was no reason to keep the movie on screens anymore. The ticket sales had tanked so badly that every showing was just bleeding money. Theater seats sat empty, while more profitable films were begging for space. It had been a steady decline for weeks, but no one thought it would crash this hard. Not even Disney, with all its money, massive reach, and world-class marketing team, could save this train wreck.
Yeah, I have a clip of it.
Oh, okay, great.
Her being a retard.
Okay.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
That
is
not going to be
saved
by
You wrote it?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
From the very start, drama was chasing this project. There was that chaotic moment on live TV, all those sketchy behind-the-scenes whispers, and major tension between cast members. Fans weren't having it. The backlash kept growing louder, turning into a full-blown storm online and off. Disney tried to hype it as a bold new take on the fairy tale, starring rising talent Rachel Zegler and the mega-famous Gal Gadot. But everything that could fall apart did. It was one disaster after another, and instead of riding the wave of nostalgia and fame, the movie got swallowed by controversy.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really
In the end, AMC pulled the plug early, a rare and brutal move, signaling that the film was beyond saving, no matter how much buzz Disney tried to manufacture. Industry insiders were scrambling, trying to piece together how this disaster even happened. "Our rights are on the line, folks," someone shouted during a heated debate. And that captured the chaotic energy swirling around this fiasco. Some folks blamed Disney's nonstop push to modernize its old-school classics. People were just over it. Others pointed straight at Rachel Zegler, saying her bold public comments, mixed with Disney's robotic PR game, were a recipe for disaster. The vibe felt forced, fake, and way off from what fans wanted. No matter the exact reason, one thing was clear. The box office tanked hard, and the bad press only made things worse.
Our rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
Come on.
This is the face
Go
of a
vote blue.
serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
What started as a fairy tale comeback turned into a nightmare, and studios everywhere were watching closely. The whole situation became a major wake-up call. Even Joe Rogan jumped in, breaking it all down during a full segment on his podcast. He didn't hold back. Rogan pointed out that AMC's choice to cut the film was bigger than just flopping numbers. It marked a cultural shift. It showed that Disney's usual tricks, huge budgets, famous faces, and slick marketing weren't enough anymore. The trust was broken.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
So we didn't do that.
He went deep into how it all unraveled. Zegler's no-filter interviews, that eyebrow-raising appearance on The View, and her social media posts that clashed with Disney's polished image. The meltdown didn't just hurt the film, it took over the whole narrative. The meltdown happened live, right there in front of a studio audience, and turned what was supposed to be a basic promo into a full-blown headline frenzy.
The primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
Joe Rogan didn't hold back when he said this mess would have been bad in any situation, but mixed with how Disney flipped the original story, it became the ultimate recipe for backlash. At first, everything looked smooth. Rachel Zegler was seen as a bold, fresh pick for the role. She could sing, she had a modern vibe, and people thought maybe, just maybe, she could bring new life to an old-school classic. But then the leaks started. Fans found out the plot had been changed a lot. Key parts of the original story, beloved character arcs, even the emotional backbone, all cut, switched, or completely scrapped. That's when the doubts kicked in. Instead of a faithful reboot, this was a total rewrite.
Particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely, when it got announced,
He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
People started questioning if Disney had gone way off course. Did they try so hard to update the tale that they lost what made it magical in the first place? And right in the middle of all this, Rachel Zegler. Her public comments started getting attention, but not in the way Disney hoped. She came off to many fans like she was throwing shade at the original Snow White. Some thought she was calling it outdated or irrelevant, and folks did not like that. Social media lit up with angry reactions. People weren't seeing Zegler as a star bringing new energy. They were blaming her for everything they hated about the remake.
And so it was like
Those people.
very much this, yes. It was
The
this
people that we
awakening
need
of,
to educate, the people that we need to love into awareness.
love them in the right direction.
She quickly became the face of the film's downfall. To be fair, Disney tried to patch things up. They sent her on a talk show circuit, hoping to calm things down. But the damage had already started to spread. Disney had high hopes of saving face before the film dropped. They wanted to fix the bad buzz and make sure opening weekend wasn't a total flop. But things didn't go as planned. Rachel Zegler wasn't playing by the rule book. While Disney tried to reel her in and clean up the narrative, she kept posting her own takes online, standing firm that she wouldn't compromise her values just to fit a corporate script.
We need to no, you don't need, it's not your job. Your job is to entertain. You are paid to entertain.
In a different situation, that kind of boldness might have earned her some serious respect. But with this project, not so much. Fans were already on edge, feeling super protective over the original Snow White, and her defiant attitude made the whole situation blow up even more. Some critics said her posts came off as dismissive, like she was talking down to people who still loved the original movie.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
Meanwhile, her supporters argued she was simply pushing for something fresh, representing modern values like diversity and inclusion. But no matter what side people took, the real drama was no longer about the movie. It was about her versus the studio. The artistic side of the film got totally overshadowed. As chatter about the film's tanking potential spread, people started whispering about how stressed Disney's execs must be.
And so I've got some bona fides here on being fair. The movie was absolutely terrible.
Bob Iger, freshly back at the helm, had a history of handling scandals like a pro. But this time, the whole strategy seemed scattered. Instead of a tight response, fans saw cast members saying different things, and rumors started flying about chaos behind the scenes. There was a growing sense that no one at Disney truly grasped just how deep this mess had gotten. The meltdown on The View became the clearest sign that things were spiraling out of control. Disney had handpicked the show as a safe zone, a daytime platform perfect for easing viewers into a fresh perspective on the film.
In every way that the movie differed from the beloved 1937 original, it was worse.
The plan was simple. Let Rachel Zegler share her story, smooth over fan concerns, and show that the new version still respected the heart of the original. But behind the scenes, the tension was already bubbling. According to reports, Disney's PR team sent specific notes to the production crew at The View outlining the exact topics Zegler should focus on and what to steer far away from. It was supposed to be a carefully managed moment. But when the cameras rolled, it was clear Rachel had her own plans. Instead of sticking to the safe script, she pivoted hard, diving into political topics that had nothing to do with the movie. She barely touched the talking points, brushing past the carefully crafted narrative. Producers scrambled to keep things on track, but it was too late. The friction was obvious on air, and the energy was awkward from start to finish. Then came the bombshells.
Basically, this movie was like you took the original Snow White and just put everything through this filter of liberalism. It wasn't through a filter of Japanese anime, it was through a filter of liberalism.
Zegler made comments that critics later slammed as explosive, saying the original story's themes were outdated, and even suggesting that fans holding on too tightly to nostalgia needed to move on. That lit the fuse. Online reaction exploded, and what should have been a promo boost turned into one of the film's most damaging moments. Fans who were already unsure about this new version of Snow White took Rachel Zegler's comments as a straight-up slap in the face.
So from the casting to the class politics, the sexual politics, the regime politics, everything about it was liberal.
Social media lit up with outrage, and the heat came fast. But the real chaos? That went down just moments later. The true meltdown hit live and hard. Eyewitnesses said you could see the panic off camera, producers flailing, trying to signal her to wrap it up or switch topics. But Zegler wasn't having it. She stood her ground and doubled down on everything she had just said. The situation spun out of control in real time. The hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin, were visibly caught off guard. They scrambled to fill the silence as the interview fell apart right in front of the audience. Things got so tense that staff members or security reportedly had to escort Zegler off the set. The broadcast cut suddenly to a commercial break, leaving viewers stunned. Most of the meltdown didn't even make it to air, but it didn't matter. Partial clips leaked almost instantly, and people online ran wild with it. Memes popped up within minutes. Jokes, outrage, side-by-side comparisons, and wild theories flooded every platform.
Snow White is generally understood to be a very, very white person. And in this case, they decided, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't think we're allowed to say that, right? I was referring to the movie as sand beige.
From that moment on, every conversation about the film circled right back to that chaotic live moment. Joe Rogan called it a full-blown PR disaster on his podcast, saying Disney didn't just lose control. They did it live, in front of millions. Any chance of turning the narrative around was gone. Damage control kicked in fast, but the meltdown had already become a rallying cry for critics who believed the remake had gone too far. To them, this wasn't just a slip-up. It was proof that Zegler, outspoken and unapologetic, wasn't the right fit for a project that needed at least some restraint. While Disney expected at least some cooperation with its carefully crafted PR strategy, Rachel Zegler's independence sparked a deeper divide. Her supporters insisted she had every right to speak her truth, but the whole fiasco took on a life of its own, dominating headlines and completely drowning out the rest of the cast. Gal Gadot, who had landed a major role in the film, was supposed to bring balance, a megastar with Hollywood clout and a calm, credible presence. People thought her involvement might ground the project and pull in older fans. But once the meltdown narrative took center stage, Gadot was pushed to the sidelines like background noise. Joe Rogan stirred the pot even more by pointing to rumors of tension between the two leads. Whispers started flying. Some claimed Zegler had made offhanded comments criticizing Gadot's background or political beliefs. Nothing confirmed, but the speculation stuck, and it painted the whole production as a behind-the-scenes war zone. Any hope of showing a strong, united cast quickly faded. Gadot kept her distance, only releasing a few vague and upbeat statements about being excited for the movie. Nothing that directly addressed the controversy. Many believed she was playing it safe, trying to protect her own image from getting dragged into the chaos. What Disney originally hoped would be a cheerful, team-driven promotion turned into a hot mess of clashing personalities and endless internet drama. Social media was ruthless. Hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite went viral. Fans were furious. Some felt the new version had strayed way too far from the classic they loved, while others slammed Zegler's tone as disrespectful toward the legacy of the original Disney era. The goodwill was gone, replaced with frustration and division. Opening weekend box office numbers told the brutal truth. Audiences just weren't buying what Disney was selling. Despite the massive advertising blitz, the movie flopped hard. It didn't even hit the lowest projections. Theater chains like AMC, which had bet big on a blockbuster rollout, ended up staring at rows of empty seats. Parents started skipping it altogether. Some were turned off by all the controversy, while others didn't want their kids caught in the middle of a media circus. It wasn't just about the film anymore. The whole vibe around it had become toxic. As sales tanked, AMC hit a major dilemma. Normally, a Disney release locks in a solid run in theaters. It's basically guaranteed money for both sides. But this time, the headlines were ugly, the backlash was loud, and the numbers kept dropping. AMC had to face the facts. Keeping this film on screen was a losing game. Ticket sales were that bad. At a certain point, it just made more business sense to replace Snow White with titles that could actually pull in a crowd. Even with the flashy visuals and huge budget, the scandal had scared people off. The movie had become straight-up radioactive. So AMC made the rare and shocking call to pull the film completely. Industry insiders were stunned. For a Disney title to get yanked like that? Practically unheard of. The pullback rolled out differently depending on the region, but not long after, AMC's official channels confirmed it. The film was gone from their lineup. Just like that, the fairy tale ended with a silent fade to black. When asked to explain the move, AMC execs kept it blunt. The film just wasn't pulling its weight. Behind the scenes, there were growing complaints from local theater managers across the country. Day after day, showings were half empty or worse. Some reported that people would pass by the Snow White posters without even looking, while others overheard moviegoers straight up saying they weren't interested after everything that went down during the meltdown. The whole situation became too big to ignore. The chaos had spilled out of fan circles and into everyday conversations, news segments, blogs, podcasts. AMC's hands were tied. There was no spin that could save this one. They had to pull the plug. Some critics speculated that this bold move might damage AMC's relationship with Disney, but others argued that Disney might have quietly agreed it was time to walk away. If the film couldn't make a profit, keeping it in theaters only dragged out the embarrassment. Better to cut losses and shift focus to the next big release. Joe Rogan zeroed in on this as a major moment. To him, this wasn't just about one film. It was a red flag for the entire system. That long-standing partnership between Disney and big chains like AMC, it suddenly looked fragile. If a movie got too controversial, even a flashy, high-budget release could get kicked to the curb if it failed to deliver. Rogan circled back to the View meltdown as the true breaking point. Before that, there had been hope. Maybe curiosity or neutral families would still show up. But once those clips and rumors started spreading, any chance of winning folks over vanished. That one live appearance turned ambivalence into cold rejection. The illusion was shattered, and nothing about this film felt normal anymore. The meltdown pulled the curtain back and revealed a production barely holding itself together. It became a lesson in what not to do during a high-stakes promo run. Normally, studios keep these press tours locked tight, carefully crafted talking points, rehearsed answers, and zero surprises. But The View, that live, unscripted setup showed just how fragile that control really is. Once Rachel Zegler veered off script and started dropping her unfiltered opinions, there was no stopping the avalanche. The producers tried to steer things back, but it was too late. The meltdown hit like a shockwave, shaking the entire entertainment world. And when Disney jumped in to do damage control, it just made them look worse. Their response felt stiff and forced, like they were more focused on silencing the noise than actually engaging with the criticism. Fans who had been casually observing suddenly couldn't look away, not because of interest in the movie, but because they wanted to see what wild twist would come next. Meanwhile, Bob Iger found himself right in the hot seat. He had just returned to the top spot at Disney during a stormy moment, inheriting a lineup full of live-action remakes already deep in production. The strategy had worked before. Slap the Disney logo on a familiar title, and the crowds would show up. But this Snow White mess proved that formula had limits. When the controversy hits hard and early, no brand, not even Disney, is immune. Fans can and will push back if they feel like the soul of the original is being tossed aside. Critics jumped on the moment, calling it proof that Disney had gotten lazy, thinking nostalgia alone could carry them through. Worse, it exposed a major flaw in the studio's PR game. When things go off script, they had no real plan to recover. Normally, Disney runs like a well-oiled machine. Corporate execs, marketing teams, and stars all moving in sync to sell the dream. But this time, that synergy completely collapsed. Instead of a clean, polished rollout, the public got a front-row seat to confusion, clashing opinions, and full-on behind-the-scenes drama. The chaos didn't stop with fans either. Even folks within Disney's larger orbit started speaking out against Rachel Zegler. One story that made the rounds involved a producer's own son, who reportedly blasted Zegler on social media, calling her outspoken behavior reckless and harmful to the entire production. Whether or not that was coordinated, it painted a picture of a fractured operation, where everyone seemed to be working against each other instead of together. Usually, internal drama stays locked behind closed doors in a studio as powerful as Disney. But this time, it all spilled out into the open and made the situation look even worse. It wasn't just a PR problem anymore. It felt like the entire project was unraveling from the inside out. Zegler didn't stay quiet. She clapped back, saying the criticism was just more proof that she was being turned into the fall girl. Some fans had her back, arguing that the real issue wasn't what she said. It was that the film itself was already packed with changes that longtime Disney lovers weren't vibing with. Even if Zegler had stayed on script, they argued, the movie would have still faced heavy backlash. By then, AMC had seen enough. They made the now legendary move to yank Snow White from theaters completely. It wasn't just a business call, it was a symbol. Disney's live-action remakes usually hold their ground for weeks, sometimes longer. But this one? Gone in record time. The fall was swift and impossible to ignore. The message sent across Hollywood was loud and clear. Even the biggest studios can crash hard when controversy drowns out the movie itself. The meltdown wasn't just embarrassing. It was devastating. For many in the public, it made the film feel unwatchable. And once AMC walked away, people started asking, would other chains follow? Some smaller theaters had already pulled the film quietly due to low turnout. But AMC's decision made it official. The largest movie exhibitor in the country had dropped Snow White. That was the final nail in the coffin. Joe Rogan pointed out that back in the day, Disney might have been able to eat the loss, quietly pushing the movie overseas or waiting for home video sales to bounce back. But that was before the age of nonstop social media chaos and 24/7 news cycles. Now, once a scandal hits, it sticks. The meltdown became the headline. Every post, every video, every meme linked back to that one explosive moment. Even people who usually don't follow celebrity drama knew all about it. Instead of being seen as a magical reimagining of a beloved tale, the film got stamped with images of bad PR, corporate panic, and a tense live TV showdown that no one could forget. That one moment erased any hope of redemption. Even critics who initially saw some value in the adaptation gave up trying to defend it. The backlash had swallowed everything. The visuals, the cast, even the storyline. And then came the harshest blow yet. People started throwing around the label box office poison. and attaching it directly to Rachel Zegler's name. Suddenly, it wasn't just about this movie. It was about whether her future in Hollywood might be on shaky ground, too. Some insiders argued it wasn't fair to dump all the blame on Rachel Zegler. They pointed out that maybe the film itself was just too big of a departure, too far removed from the original Snow White to keep longtime fans on board. Others said the marketing was a mess from the start, all over the place, with no clear message about what the movie actually was. But no matter what the deeper issues were, the meltdown on The View had taken over the narrative completely. It became the symbol of the film's downfall, the moment everything unraveled. Posters and trailers had pushed Zegler as the face of the movie. Yet when she stepped up to promote it, the conversation veered wildly off course, confusing and even offending the very people Disney was hoping to win over. Joe Rogan predicted this whole fiasco would force Disney to tighten up its game. He suggested they might slap stricter contracts on their lead actors, especially when it comes to press appearances. Maybe future stars would have to agree to stick to studio-approved talking points, or maybe Disney would finally learn how to modernize a classic without losing the original magic that fans care so deeply about. Still, Rogan warned about going too far. If the next batch of stars come off too stiff, just reciting polished lines like corporate robots, audiences might smell the fakeness a mile away. That kind of inauthenticity can spark its own kind of backlash. Ironically, the meltdown showed just how much authenticity matters, or at least the appearance of it. Rachel Zegler's moment was raw, real, and totally not what the audience was looking for. In the aftermath, whispers began about what Disney would do next. Instead of dragging out a dead box office run, some speculated the studio would quietly dump the film on Disney Plus much sooner than expected. A last-ditch move to salvage something from the wreckage. Even the streaming route came with risks. Dropping a big-name movie onto Disney Plus too soon can scream flop. And that kind of message sticks. But with AMC and other chains cutting the film loose, Disney didn't have many options left. Joe Rogan predicted the aftermath of this meltdown would leave a long shadow over both the studio and Rachel Zegler, at least for a while. Zegler's future casting choices might now come with a side of caution. Studios will be watching closely for any sign she might go off script again or stir controversy during press tours. Meanwhile, Disney will be under the microscope for how it handles future remakes, especially when dealing with beloved classics. The Snow White meltdown exposed just how tricky it is to modernize a story without crossing into what fans see as straight-up disrespect. Rogan also highlighted the comedy that followed. Late-night hosts and internet creators had a field day. Memes flooded timelines, jokes about empty AMC theaters, punchlines like "the day Snow White died," and satirical takes on the chaos were everywhere. Disney, usually the fortress of clean image control, looked rattled. The meltdown captured something deeper, a cultural pushback against what many saw as corporate arrogance. People don't mind modern twists. In fact, they welcome them when done right. But when a remake feels like a soulless cash grab that mocks the original, audiences don't just check out, they revolt. Pair that with a star making explosive, unfiltered comments on live TV, the damage becomes impossible to undo. No PR team, no matter how skilled, could spin this one into a win. And once AMC, a major player in the movie theater game, publicly declared they were done with the film, that sealed the deal. That final moment, when AMC's official channels posted the announcement, became the ultimate symbol of everything that went wrong. It wasn't just a meltdown, it became a full-blown industry moment. Total chaos on daytime TV. This wasn't just a hiccup, it was a full-blown disaster that made sure this Snow White reboot won't be remembered for any bold storytelling or clever updates. Nope. What everyone's gonna talk about is the epic meltdown that wrecked its reputation and had the biggest theater chain in the country hitting the brakes fast. That one wild moment changed the game. Now studios are watching their stars, their marketing, and their treasured franchises like hawks. Because nobody wants to see this kind of train wreck happen again. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more.